reach that. Of course, it is a challenge, as we've seen this past 5 days here at COP. Not all countries can decarbonize as fast as is possible because they need a lot of funding, they need a lot of technology, appropriate technology for that specific country. But we need to accelerate the energy transition. Having said that, we have a lot of great example of countries who have managed to decarbonize their energy, like for example Ecuador or Costa Rica, who are leaders in that, and they managed to switch to almost 90% renewable energy. And as they did that, we could do it too. In the global north, we can. In the global south, with more finance and more skills, and we'll talk about it as well, we can too. And
I really love when you literally specified, where exactly can we have more of this energy transition, As much as you talk of the global north, these are the countries which have the capabilities, these are the countries which have evolved, these are the countries with the technologies. They can do it right now. They can literally work on it, they can ban all fossil fuels and start to work on green energy, and you literally say in global south, it's an important question, remark on that, that in the global south, it's not just waking up and saying there's transition, when there is enough funding, when there is enough investment in green energy in Africa, it's possible. And thank you for that, and it's very wonderful. So I'm now moving on to you, my brother. So I'm going to ask you a question. I know that, like you say, that you also have some ideas and also knowledge in regards to innovation and technology. And I believe your country is one of the leading countries in regards to technology, Japan. So I would ask you, what innovation solutions or technologies do you believe can accelerate the transition to clean energy?
Yes, thank you. I talk about in the context of Japan. Japan accelerated the renewable energy 12 years ago. Since the Fukushima's nuclear disaster, the government decided to expand the renewables more and more, and we introduced the system of named FEED, but it's so complicated, so I don't explain there. But when we introduced the renewables in my country, there are some struggles because Japan has a little land of the fields, so there are so many mountains. So there is a limited space to introduce the solar power. But there are some buildings which has no solar power yet. So in Japan now, we have the new type of solar panels named perovskite. I don't know which is known as the countries, but the traits of the solar panel is flexible and can introduce even if it is card fuse, so we can generate energy from every direction. This will expand more solar panels in urban areas. And also in Japan, there is a lot of sea. So we introduce wind power floating on the sea. Has a very difficult technology, but we try, and it will be stand even if it's typhoon hits there. It will continue to stand there. So this kind of technology will help in the world to accelerate renewables. Thank you.
Wonderful. I love the ideas and the technology and advancement that is there in Japan. Because as you can see, I think also Japan and Singapore, these are one of the leading countries which have got solar panels in the ocean or in lakes and stuff. The whole idea, like what he explained, that in Japan, the land is limited. So there is a need for innovation. There is a need for technologies that can work in that certain area. And it's very wonderful that Japan is one of the countries that are also leading in innovation and technology there. As you can see nowadays, we have hybrid cars. They literally from Japan. And it's one of the ways to reduce emissions, as you know that cars, they literally also emit a lot. And also we have wind energy. These are the top things that we can do to accelerate clean energy. These are some of the things that we can work on, that we can share the technology in regards to that clean energy. And it's wonderful that Japan is literally leading in that. And thank you so much for that. So guys, I want to welcome you, my brother. I know that you were actually there when we started the session, but you really understand the whole topic about energy and the energy in our countries. You are from Sub-Sahara, I understand. And so I'm going to ask you a question. So how can we ensure that equitable access to clean energy for all communities, especially those that are marginalized and underdeveloped? How can we ensure that all communities, they have the access to this? How can we ensure that?
Okay, thank you so much. Firstly, my name is Simon Philbert Kimaro, and I'm from Tanzania. I'm working with the Rise Up Movement Tanzania, and also I'm working with a youth organization in Tanzania which is called Human Dignity Environmental Care Foundation. The issue of renewable energy and energy access in Tanzania actually is a big challenge, and when we speak on clean energy specifically, because most of our communities are low income households, they mostly depend on fossil fuel. So when you speak about these communities to shift on clean energy, for example, say solar energy, they think it's very expensive and they cannot afford, especially on maintenance and things like that. So in Tanzania, we had some of the discussions about this matter, and some of the arguments were raised during these discussions, and people suggest that government they should maybe subsidize this clean energies so that these low-income communities can afford these energies, so that they can have a transition from depending on fossil fuel to this clean energy. So in our country, this it's a big challenge, and actually we have a long way to go so that to reach here. So that is all I can say on part of our country.
Wow, and that's very important, as all of you understand that the Sub-Sahara Africa itself is one of the most impacted continents in the entire world. But the main problem is not about African, is that we have large populations which are really affected by the effects of climate change. So how do we ensure that these communities really literally have the access to clean energy, have access to all this, like what you're saying, that it's not easy, and something that also we need a collaboration between also the governments, the NGOs, to make sure that these communities have access to this. What do we need? We need more investment in green energy. We need more capacity building to make sure that the people understand. It's not all about giving people wind energy. It's not all about giving them, we are guys, we are going to give you windmills and stuff. They need to understand. They need the knowledge. So I think also it's important that we can use that also in schools to have education on energy. How can they adapt to clean energy? It's very important. Thank you so much for that. But also I would want you and you to also have remarks in regard to that. How do we make sure that communities have access to clean energy, especially those who are literally affected? How do we make sure that they all have access? So I want you also from your own side, and you from your own side to give remarks in regards to that. I'll start with you, then I'll end.
Sure, thank you, Steven. Yeah, how do we make sure? I think by putting communities at the center. More than collaboration. I think it's the community who has to be at the center of the energy transition, and I think we've seen it in few projects. We've seen it in few countries where the communities was empowered to have the skills to build those plants, like the solar plants, and to learn how to maintain them. And this works very well as well for clean cooking. That's something that like we haven't spoken about yet, but clean cooking is important for the energy transition. Cooking takes energy, and especially is something that affects women and gender equality. So when we talk about how to make sure that the community is involved as well, just we need to consider the gender equality of the energy transition. Yesterday was Gender Equality Day. We have had a lot of announcements, including $1.4 billion from the US for an initiatives that will go and touch life of women in Bangladesh, in sub-Saharan Africa, and upskill them in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, so that they can actually be part of not only the energy transition, but the whole sustainable transition.
Wow, thank you so much for that, and you touched important points there, about engaging them, putting them the first priority is very important on that. So I'll move on to you, my brother. Can you have some comments in regards to that?
Here, when we empowering the local community, here it's important because when big electricity company has the power, local electricity company can don't have the enough opportunity to make a new projects about the renewables. And when big companies make solar power or wind power in marginalized communities, it can be energy colonialism. It's a problem. And when we talk about renewable, the power has to be in the people, and the people should own their own electricity, have their and they provide energy in the community and circulate in a small town. And here it's great because in disasters we can have the access to energy even if the electricity supply was shut down because of the disaster. If the solar or wind is there, we can have the access. It will lead to the resilience of the community here.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I'm really sorry about that. So we are literally talking about energy. How can how can communities which are mostly affected have access to clean energy? So I'm sorry that we had to start and you're not here, but you can introduce yourself, and you can also have a comment on that topic. How can most affected communities have access to clean energy? I know it's a very big topic that we're discussing today.
Thank you so much. My name is Waqas Idris. I'm from Pakistan. I'm an energy and sustainability specialist, and I specialize in developing clean energy resources for underprivileged or affected areas that are impacted by natural or man-made disasters. So in Pakistan, what we've done is we've actually given access to around 900 megawatts of solar and clean energy to backward areas that have been impacted by floods of 2022. I specifically work with underprivileged children. And what we did was in the Ivory Coast, we had a school which we solarized. Now, the things with some of the problems with energy, especially in areas which are probably not as developed and which require that support that we need to actually become industrialized, is something that is a constant debate in all of these COPs. And we need to understand that us getting that support is not possible without the global north giving us grants, not loans. That is the biggest thing. So most of the funds that come in are tagged on with some crucial quid pro quos. And some of the countries are not in any capacity, who are already burdened by economic and social despair, to actually overcome those issues. So the biggest thing that communities can do in their own capacity that we actually do is to develop small micro pico grids, We call them picogrids. So, for example, we did this project in Senegal where we literally developed a picogrid with a hospital, and it was giving electricity to 5 to 6 houses in the area. And that was to ensure that the children, that the service providers, that doctors had access to emergency electricity to operate their procedures. And we have to understand that for us, from our background, we can depend upon the government, but we have to build our own reliance within our own system, within our own community. So what we are doing in Pakistan, we have an initiative for climate awareness and resilient earth, where I work with children and we empower them to explore the different avenues to help build energy sustainability and energy independence. Goes without saying that on a global level, this has to come in the form of loss and damage, this has to come in the form of GCF, and this has to come in the form of grants and not loans. That is the only way for some of us or underdeveloped countries to achieve energy security and energy reliability. And I just want to add one thing, since I am a proponent of youth empowerment, intergenerational equity requires that we develop energy solutions so that the future generations don't have to bear the burden that we are actually facing right now. We are the transition generation. The next generation won't have access to what we have access to. So thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Wow. And the good part is that we are having youth literally involved in the energy transition subject, because this is one of the most important subject that we're dealing with right now. The whole reason why I say so is because now we have a big topic of how do we have a just transition? How do we have this all clean energy transition where we have your country is one of the most impacted countries as much as I'm concerned. I think is it 2021 or something where there were those floods? Exactly, and I will see that most of the people were literally affected by these floods. And now the good part is that we have youth like you who are literally leading the initiative on taking grassroots action, and I really do appreciate on that. So moving on to the next question, I'm gonna start with you. So it's so the next question is in your own opinion, what steps should governments, policymakers take to adopt to renewable energy at a global scale?
Yeah, on the global scale, countries, for example, when I say like Tanzania, actually, like you said earlier, we need people to understand what we need to transit to the renewable energies, because actually most of our community, because for example in our country, in rural area, they don't understand and they won't accept to transit to the clean energy, because for example, if we had one of our grandmother, if you tell her to cook the food by using other source of energy except firewood or charcoal, she thinks that food won't be sweet or won't be nice. So this community need to be capacitated. We need to change the mindset and behavioral change. So actually this thing, from the government level, we need to capacitate and raise awareness from the local level so that they can understand the importance, the need of moving from these dirty fuels to the clean energies. So after we change the mindset, we need to include these local communities in the space, in the table, so that all these decisions, all these policies which will be generated, so that there are voices to be in it, so that we don't need voices of a small group of people to make decisions for others. When we say just transitions, we need to have all peoples on board, from the interior, all those people who are from the far part of the country should understand what's going on and should make decisions on the policies which we are making. So one thing that actually I need to say is that we don't need to transit to the clean energies from the back of those vulnerable communities, or from those people who are marginalized, who are going to be affected most by these transitions. That is what all I can say.
Wow, and I would like to thank you. You literally said something interesting when you say that we cannot do it at the expense of the most affected communities, the vulnerable communities. This is what the world is right now. They tend to forget, that as much as we are going to have this transition, who is going to be impacted, how much effect, how much destruction are we going to cause in regards to this transition? How many people are going to lose jobs? How many people are going to be poor and poor? You know, as much as you talk of energy, I know you're from Tanzania, right? And you understand that right now, if we had a slight increase in fossil fuel, the same fossil fuel we are fighting for, but for us ourselves in Africa, if we have 1 cent increase in that, which means food is going to increase, that is going to create more poverty. People are already poor. So this is what the world is forgetting. This is also what our leaders are forgetting, that whenever they have this talk, they have to make sure whatever they say have to benefit the local communities, like what he's saying, that these people need to be paid, these people need to have all the knowledge, like what you say, the capacity building and everything. Thank you for that. So the some question, it also goes to you on how do you think countries should work on this at a global scale?
Yeah, so I think we have touched upon different points at this moment in time. Obviously, as we have seen in these past few days, there have been quite a lot of promises of funding, etc. So we'll need to see if these promises actually get implemented. If this funding, if this funding actually gets to go to the countries which are affected. And I think I've seen different levels, right? We have these promises that we might have this money, but at the end of the day, it goes to the implementation of the single government in the countries. And I've seen it, in Europe and in the UK. We have been a lot of money coming in from green transition, etc. But then this money get given to the local government, to the national governments like the UK, Italy, Spain, etc. And then the governments have to create implementation plans. And here I think it's where it gets challenging, because national governments have different priorities, they have short-term priorities. We can see now in the UK, they have massive promises and massive plans of net zero, and now we are coming to next election next year, and all these promises are getting down the drain basically, because people are scared of change. And I think you, Stephen, have mentioned an interesting point about people losing jobs because of changing to transitioning. And I think that I'd like to offer a different perspective, because that's a narrative that has been used in different countries, like in the US and the UK as well, that people will lose jobs in the oil and gas industry. But I don't think that will be the case, because you can always retrain people, you can always retrain engineers, right? You can retrain them, and then as they work on an oil and gas plant, they can work on a renewable energy plant. So I feel there is this tension between the promises, the implementation, and also what the community wants, so what we perceive the community wants. And there has been a survey recently that says that 78% of people in Europe and the global north will be happy to make some changes to make the clean energy transition happening. So we have support. We just need to make sure that our political class listens.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I know that you guys want to come in and you're gonna have comments on that. I think in 2021, when we have the COP simulation, I was the head of delegation for Pakistan. I was representing your country. I was working on, and I was checking that you have a lot of debts. We were fighting debts. So the whole point is that as much as you're going to have this whole transitioning subject and everything, you understand that these countries that we are trying to say transit, right? They have debts, very big debts. As much as any amount that you're going to produce, all of these grants, like what you're saying, that they will give us the grants and everything, but early in the morning they'll tell you, can you please pay our debt? You see, so it's sort of like a tokenization thing, at the global stage, they tell you you're gonna pledge billions of dollars. They give you the money, the next day they want their money. So we have to deal with debt cancellation first. And also, as much as you're talking of transitioning, we need to understand where should we start with the transition? How should we start that transition? It's very important to identify the location. If right now today we say that in Europe, please, you're not going to use any fossil fuel from today, they can survive. Why? Because they have counter technologies, they have developed. You use electric trams, you use wind energy, you use all those things. But in Tanzania, if we ban all the fossil fuels in the country, what is going to happen? You understand that people are going to be more poor, right? More poor, right? So, as we want to address this issue of that, we need to understand that there is need for more investment in the global south. There is need for more investment in green energy. But I want to come to you. Yeah, I'll start with you. What are your comments in regards to that? What do you think the world leaders here, especially from different countries, have an influence on policy making in regards to clean energy?
Here, and I'll comment in the text of the foreign policy of Japan. Japan got the Fossil of the Award 2 days ago because of the greenwashing policy. Yeah, that's right. Japan is expanding the abated coal power plant with ammonia or hydrogen or carbon capture. Yeah, Japan says it's contribute to the country as you mentioned in the global South countries and especially South Asians because they need more coal to get energy. As you said, there are energy shortage. So yeah, it is a problem. People has the right to get the supply of electricity, but Japan's support of this technology is will delays the transition to renewables and blocks the expansion of renewables. And Japan also has the technology of renewables. So when we Global North supports those countries, it should be renewable and we should not affect the indigenous peoples there and have the proper assessment before it is constructing, and we have to also make the technology not just constructing the capacity, but also we have to educate the people there so that they can use the technology independently without depending on the engineering from the other countries, so that they can depend and have their energy sources. It's important. Yes.
Thank you so much. I'll pass it on to you. Then we have our last question, then we take questions from the audiences.
Okay, so I'm gonna build on a couple of responses over here. So the concept of just transition. California just introduced the NEM Standard 3, which is the National Electricity or Energy Program for net metering, the third year. It's the third version of it. Interestingly, what that did was it has laid off around 35% of the workforce. And I'm talking about California here, which is the global north, which is one of the elitist places in the US that you could live. So the concept of just transition does not only impact the global south, it also impacts people living within the global north. And to your point, that engineers can be trained, but there's a saying, and it's a very cliche saying, you cannot teach old horse new tricks. And this is what I've seen in Pakistan, that someone who's been working in the industry, who's been working on the fossil fuel plant for like 3/4 of his life, it becomes really hard for them to actually take them to, for example, when the computers came in, Microsoft Word, how many times were their seniors in your office, you had to work with them to make them understand of how to work with Word or PowerPoint or Excel. So what I've realized in my experience is, and that is the reason that most of the companies, they choose to lay people off and hire fresh blood, because number one, they're cheap, number two, they're easy to groom, and number three, they're amenable to change. So these are the biggest three factors which are preventing just transition to happen from that angle, if you look at it. Now, just to add to this whole concept of how governments can actually motivate and promote and how this dialogue can come in. I'm a strong proponent of not only global north versus south, but south-south partnerships. There should be inter-regional partnerships. So it should not be we depending upon a specific country in Europe to support us. We need to look at our neighbors. We need to work together. What that will do is that will not only promote economic growth within the area. For example, some regions are really, really well equipped for solar or wind. We can develop inter-regional transmission networks. We can transfer, for example, what's happening in Europe right now. What that will also do is prevent wars. It will actually de-escalate the tensions that are happening in some parts of the Asia and some parts of the Middle East. And that is what promotes global peace, a true sustainable future for everyone. But I know that's easier said than done. It's like preaching, but most of what we do at COP, and I've been to a lot of COPs, it's mostly lip service. It is an aspirational thing, and at some point you have to just believe that words have action, and somehow they are going to reflect and cause a change down the line. So I hope that answers your question.
Wow, thank you so much for that. You literally touched a lot of things in that, and I think the audiences here literally did take it to the core. So we have a last question, then we're gonna take questions from the audiences. So you gotta answer it like a little bit quick because our time is a little bit limited. So this one is just a general question. Do you think we can achieve net zero by 2050? Okay. I will start with anybody who would want to answer, not just you. Do you think it's possible to achieve the net zero by 2050? This is the target. This is what we've been preaching from 2010. So I don't know. Go on.
Yeah, that's great. I think like we have had some hilarious reactions. I love to see this as a gift actually, so we're gonna go viral. I think well, it depends what you define as net zero. Actually, because maybe when it comes to when it's gonna come to 2050, you'll have all the governments who just gonna buy carbon credits from where. But in terms of abating our emissions as close as possible, I think how much do we have left? 27 years? 26? I think we're gonna get close. We might get close, but we won't reach it. That's what I think.
Thank you so much for that.
Just to build on that, I'm a very pessimist. I'm a pessimist in this. I think net zero, quite honestly, is an accounting term, and it's an accounting term that helps you push the ball just far enough so that you don't have to worry and your government is out, and the next person has to worry about it. They say that net zero is only achievable if you achieve 100% abatement and phase out of fossil fuels by 2030. We all know that's never going to happen. You're never going to phase out fossil fuels by 2030. And even if you do, by 2050, the remaining anthropogenic emissions up in the atmosphere, they're nowhere near enough to actually go down to achieve net zero. So it's all an accounting term for me, and I think no, that's the simple answer.
Wow, Moreno?
Yeah, on my side, I think 2050 is a bit close, not that far. So I think what we really need to focus is first we need to have a shared vision and focused collaboration, because actually currently now what I see, everyone has got his own or her own vision. So for us to reach our goal, that is net zero, we need to have the same goal and share vision for both of us. When we say governments, climate activists, our communities, all these marginalized community, we have union of workers. We need to have all the shared visions, because if we differentiate from ourselves, it will be hard to reach our goal in 2050.
Thank you so much. I'll pass it on to you. Very quick one.
Here, even if the small country in Japan, which has the capacity of renewable, which can supply the 2.7 times of the present supply of the electricity. So here, in the whole world, in Africa, there are also much more potential. So we have the capacity. What we need is the will to make the action. And yes, not only focus on the 2050 goals, but also we have to acknowledge the 2030 goal is important, because we forget that NDC, we cannot reach the 2050 goals even after 2060 to 2070 goals. Yes, so that we need to focus on 2032. Yes, thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, guys, for the answers. And me also, as a youth, as a climate advocate, I believe that 2050 is way too close. Way too close. The whole reason is that the world need to understand, like what you say, it's all about building bridges, not walls. It's all about the world coming together with one mentality. And if we can achieve that, it's way closer. We can do it. But the problem is that people are not willing to come together. If you see our leaders, it takes them almost 28 years to agree on something simple. Let's help the ones who are affected. It's simple, but it takes them years and years. I also have been in some negotiations. You see that the countries which need to help us are the ones who are blocking to pass the laws that can help the people who are mostly affected. The loss and damage finance, you see how long did it take? So it's way too close. And look at how many people we have who are mostly affected, and we need all of them to have access to clean energy. So it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of collaboration. So thank you so much, guys. But before you go, I'm gonna ask questions from the audience, just like 2 questions or 3 questions, then we end our session. So I'll start with you.
Okay, good morning everyone. Sorry I came a bit late, and you said something that caught my interest, because I run an organization whereby we train people, and part of our focus to make people that are also in engineering to begin to do things more sustainably. Because I wanted to do electrical electronics, and I was put into a course called meteorology. And in the angle of meteorology, I found there's something called renewable energy, so I focused on that. So all my tech skills, I begin to focus on sustainability. If I'm doing coding, I'm doing robotics, I'm saying how can we make it sustainable? That's where that starts. So we train people to become STEM professionals, but we tell them to focus on the SDGs, climate change. But what about the old guys, like you said? You can't teach old dog news trick. So what do we do? Are you saying that we cannot? I'm not saying that people that are 50 or 60, but the young people that are already doing mechanical engineering courses. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. The young people that are already doing mechanical engineering courses, probably doing their first year of job, probably they're just about to start, they're innovators, creating a startup, NGO, and they're taking off a wonderful solution, but they're using fossil fuel, or they're not doing it sustainably. So if we can bring those people and teach them the news trick, like I learned doing meteorology, so instead of building you're building a race car, or you're building a drone, instead of using fossil fuel or anything, do it in a sustainable way. Instead of using new materials, we're not using recycled materials, scrap metals, stuff like that. Make your tech solutions be sustainable. That's what my organization is trying to do. So, but what you said was like, I don't know if you can reiterate or readdress that. Are you saying we cannot do that? Can we not bring these people who are already in the field of engineering to behave more sustainably, or we should just forget about that cause? Is it a lost cause?
No, so thank you so much for that question actually, because I missed out on the answer to that. So what we're doing is, what I'm doing is, you have heard that games actually make you understand something better than books. So we design games. I play 2 to 3 type of games with the government officials right now. When I was at MIT, I developed this simulation game. It's called En-ROADS. And what En-ROADS does is it actually helps you convert your thought process into an actual trajectory. So you can actually see, okay, fine, I'm working in fossil fuels, let me take down fossil fuel by a degree and see where the trajectory of the global temperature takes me. If I jack up the price for carbon tax, where does that take me? So it gives you an eye line, an eyesight of how change happens with a single action. Coupled with that, there are 2 other games that we play. One is a card game, which is called Climate Fresk. So Climate Fresk is basically the IPCC report in a fun way. And we play those with engineers who have like 1 year of experience up to 20, 30 years of experience. And it helps them gain an understanding and appreciation of how to get a worldwide view of change and climate change. And one thing that I just want to take away, people talk about climate change. The biggest disservice that we do to all of this discussion is we say it's a climate change problem. It's not a climate change problem. Climate change is only an effect. It's not the cause. Sustainability is the cause. And through my game, that's what I try to instill in people, because you mentioned sustainability. If you talk or teach people about sustainability, everything will fall into place. They see it in. So sustainability is the key to all of this engagement, not climate change. So I hope I answered your question, and I can discuss this game with you in more detail if you want to.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much, guys. I know that you all wanted to answer the question, but our time is very limited. We have a next session. So if you have a question after this session, you can literally see our beautiful guest here. We have delivered on the energy talk. Thank you so much. Keep on working, keep on motivating people. So one after the session, you can go outside, you can take a picture for you guys. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. Can we just have a clap? Thank you.